Yeah. Rock and roll here. Yep.
All right. Well, let's see what we're doing here. Let's see.
The following program was pre-recorded for broadcast at this time.
The following program is sponsored by Mr. Texas Real Estate. Welcome to the Texas Real Estate Radio Network with Mr. Texas Real Estate Jason Bible and Mr. California Investor Robert Orfino. Join us as Jason and Robert talk about the hottest real estate market in the country, the entire state.
That'll be the fastest car in the world, right?
The fastest production car in the world. And it's a four-door sedan.
At 144.
Yeah, 140 grand.
Ridiculous. Texas Real Estate Radio.
As soon as I saw it, as soon as he said it's available now, I went right online. I'm like, oh, there it is.
All right, so battery day sucked for everybody except me.
I was going to say it was not good for the stock.
No, yeah,
it was down about 13%.
Yeah, it's not good. But if you guys missed battery day, okay, the good thing is they're coming out with a new battery. Well, that's good. They don't have a means to manufacture it yet, but they'll figure it all out, right? But more importantly, the new Model S Plaid, which there was a rumor out there that this car was they were already testing it like a year ago. So let me explain for those non-car people out there how fast this car is. It's a four-door sedan for about $140,000.
It's equivalent to a Mercedes S.
Yeah, like an S-Class, right?
Yeah, that's why it was
without any options.
Right.
Because you can get to $2 bills on an S-Class pretty quick.
Yeah, really quick, yeah.
This thing is so fast. It's the fastest production car on the planet now that you can order today. I don't know what their lead time is to get one.
About a year.
About a year to get one for 140 grand.
Because that will be the one with the new batteries.
Okay, so it'll have the new batteries. This is the precursor to what Tesla is going to put into the Roadster.
Right.
Which, when the Roadster came out, there's a real good video. If you go to VinWiki, go to YouTube, type in VinWiki, Tesla, there's a guy in there in the VinWiki archives that is working with Tesla on how can I put this? Making Tesla sports cars more sporty. He's worked with a ton of manufacturers, and he's a race car driver. And he said, if you watch the videos of the Roadster debut, I was the guy taking people for drives in it. And he said, I will tell you right now, it is faster than the specs tell you. He said, I've got a everything's embargoed. I can't say anything. But he said, I'm telling you, it's faster than what they said. Right. And the release yesterday of the Model S Plaid tells you that's the case.
Yeah.
This is a four-door sedan that runs a sub 2-second 0 to 60. That is mind-blowingly fast.
Right.
It runs a quarter mile in less than 9 seconds. That blows everything Ferrari, Lambo, McLaren. I don't think somebody has to look up the Bugatti Chiron, which is $3 million. I don't think runs a sub 9. It's ridiculous how fast this thing is.
Right.
And it's only, this is going to sound crazy if you've never shopped cars at this performance level, it's only 140 grand. So this isn't like...
It's 147 with autonomous driving.
Yeah, 147. And
with that loaded is the way to say it.
Loaded,
147
okay.
loaded.
So 150.
Or 139 without.
Yeah, 150 loaded. And it is faster than anything else that's a production car on the planet. It's ridiculous how fast this thing is. And it's a family sedan. Mm-hmm. So one of the things you and I keep telling people is like, look, this is how you need to look at the electric car market. This is the equivalent of houses going from coal and fuel oil to electricity.
Right.
This is the equivalent of going from a rotary phone to a cell phone. Like, that's how revolutionary this is. My guess is, this is just totally my guess, at some point, Congress is going to get involved and say, this is how fast you're allowed to have a car.
Yeah, no more production cars over 200, yeah.
Because and I think it's got a wide body kit on it, right? It's going to look so sick. So it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I just can't imagine, because here's the problem. I was chatting with a buddy of mine, Brian, who's a big fan of the show. And Brian and I have been going back and forth. And he said, when you start getting into sub 8-second quarters,
right,
and you run them consistently, your retinas can detach.
Yeah.
Like that's how much G-force is being, put on the body.
Yep.
It's just insane. It's literally like driving a rocket ship.
Yep.
And you know what the crazy thing is? It has the exact same maintenance schedule as the cheapest Tesla.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the tires on a Bugatti Veyron.
The way you would drive, you're going to be a little more tires.
Yeah, we're going through tires, right?
Yeah, miss some brakes maybe.
So let me tell you, a Bugatti Veyron, which for a couple of years was that's a V6. No, it's a W16 quad turbochargers. Volkswagen loses money on every single one they sell.
That's the type of engine you put in one of those big tractors, right? You see these big moving machines.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and there's like 6 guys in the world that can work on them. They fly from this place to this place. They're ridiculous to maintain. The tires are $40,000.
Right.
So you can buy it. So here's what people don't understand. And why this is a really big deal. Here you now have the fastest production car on the planet. And it's literally one of the cheapest cars to maintain in the world. It's like owning a Toyota Corolla. That is the fastest car in the world. Oh, and by the way, Elon was going through all the safety stuff. It's also the safest car in the world.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
That's what he said. He said, people forget we produce the safest vehicles in the world. And our number one design goal is safety.
Yes.
And he said, and they talked about autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, for every 1 million miles driven in this country, there's 2.1 accidents.
Mm-hmm.
For every 1 million miles driven on autopilot, there's 0.03.
Yeah.
He said, it's close, but we want it to get to a factor of 100. We want it to be 100 times better than an average human. So already, if you just drive the Tesla on autopilot, and every 15 seconds you got to touch the wheel.
Yeah, you got to touch the wheel, yeah.
It's safer than a human being driving.
By a factor of 10.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand how, here's another thing that shocked me about and that was during the investor update. One of the things that shocked me about the investor update is when he said, I'm always driving the most current version of auto. He's like, I'm driving all the experimental autopilot. Right. And I'm like, wait a second here.
Well, he is uninsurable.
That is true. He's uninsurable.
He is, yeah.
But if I were, as shareholders, actually had enough to vote, I'd be like, hey, Elon, look, bro, surely you can give that to a couple of engineers. Like, you shouldn't be testing this out, right?
You should not be driving anything. You should have a driver and basically walk around in a bubble, right?
Well, what's interesting is when they did the last launch, the big launch, SpaceX launch, the human space flight one.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So when they flew Dragon up, the 3 days before when they had to scrub the first launch, somebody caught a picture of him and it ended up on the TXRE website where Elon was at one of the supercharger stations, filling up his X.
Yeah.
He had the big SUV, and he was saying hi to everybody. He was like, "Oh my gosh, Elon's here! It's so cool!" And he was meeting and greeting with everybody. But if you look in the background, he had security. Now this was not like, a couple of like tough-looking guys. These guys, you could tell, were former Secret Service dudes. Like, these were the real deal. Yeah. Probably had Glock 18s underneath their jackets, like, ready to go. Like, they were ready for it to go down, right?
And it's not as though they're just prepared warriors. They're they're also high IQ, speak 5 different languages. Yeah. Anyone approaching, we're going to be able to talk to, right?
Right. Well, my guess, too, is they might have some surveillance. They knew where they were going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They
probably ran everybody's plates. They're like, this is a bunch of Tesla nerds. You're going to be just fine here. Yep. But you never know, right? So, in any case, I thought that was interesting. But, yeah, I did not know they completely rebuilt the software stack for the autonomous driving. So, they're, like, completely redoing it. It's real fascinating.
We're going to geek out a little bit more when we come back from this break. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
That will not fit at the new storage facility, Sean. Sorry. How about a 67 Dodge Edgar? Group was watching him. Yeah, Jeff, I can read some of these.
You
Yeah, we look at the. We can read them sometimes, guys.
But Facebook doesn't show the. Sometimes
Facebook doesn't show the name, so I can see all you guys. So I can see everybody on YouTube and on Facebook most of the time.
Yes. But if you are watching on Facebook, you've got to move to YouTube because we're not going to be doing Facebook anymore.
Yeah, we're going to be out of Facebook land here pretty soon. So
please, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Certainly not anything I tell you to do.
Rob, that might be the car.
I thought of you immediately. I was like, that's his car. That's it. And then we just have to talk to Anthony Watson because there is a certain amount of. You can go right in.
Okay.
So when I saw that release, I was like, oh, that's his car.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, well, I definitely want a Y and a truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, Y for her, and then the truck for me, but interchangeable at this point. And then I just thought, I remember Anthony Watson from Robert Hall & Associates talking about you couldn't write down certain luxury cars.
Yeah.
There's a thing on there, and then you have to kind of take it as income. So we've got to now sit down with our accountant and come up with an automobile purchasing plan,
right,
on how to best buy these, put them under, because the trucks could certainly go into the company.
Trucks, yeah, and they're over
because everyone's going to use them in the company.
What's that? What is that? Somebody dropped the IRS code. Yeah, what's the IRS code? It's got to be like 7,000 pounds, and you can write off in the first year.
3.5 tons, something like that.
It's all. I'll wait. Somebody will post in the comments. But so
we have to come up with a plan on how to fill up our little bays right there. And then I'm thinking, well, would you leave the truck at work? And then I'm like, you can't even. It's almost impossible to steal a Tesla.
Yeah, it's so the joke is
you'd have to pull it on a flatbed and pull it out of there.
It's so stupid.
Yeah,
there's these morons that keep breaking into them.
Yes, and they're getting caught.
And they get caught. So for those of you who are criminals that are listening to the show, well, you can be a criminal. You're probably not a stupid criminal. So
there's a lot of white collar criminals listening to our show.
The white collar criminals. That's fine.
There's a lot of them.
So
smash and grab guys listening.
Yeah, so the smash and grab guys, if you just happen to catch the show, and FYI, if it says Tesla on it, do not break into it. So they have something on there called Sentry Mode. All of the cameras around the car, and it's got cameras everywhere.
8 cameras, yeah.
8 cameras on this thing. If you break into it, they're going to see your license plate and your face.
Yeah.
And it records all of it and sends it to the cloud.
Yes.
Like, even if you blew the car up,
right,
it's too late. The video feed's gone to the cloud. So, and they catch these guys all the time because they're so stupid.
People key the car. They watch her, like, a woman walks by, keys a Tesla for some reason because they got the electric charging spot in the mall. And she gets in her car, drives away, and then they post this video. It's like, hey, does anyone know this woman?
Yeah.
It's like, that's my neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Here's her name. Here's her address. Call the police.
Great. Go ahead and send her a bill for being an idiot.
Yes, absolutely. She got arrested.
Oh, that's so funny. My favorite is if you get in these Tesla groups, when people park, and then, of course, folks are always banging doors into other cars, right? All the time. So then they find somebody that, like, opens their car door and bangs their Tesla.
Right.
And, of course, you got the license plate of the other guy, right? And you're like, what do you do? Now you're going to go hunt these people down? Because they're anyway, so it's kind of funny. But
soon.
Yeah, but that Model S Plaid is just going to be ridiculous.
So I thought Battery Day was actually amazing.
Did you?
Because I was geeking out and I started running the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, they said that the battery is now 56% cheaper.
Yes.
And 76% more efficient to produce.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now I'm thinking, well, why are they building 4 million square feet in Texas if they just told us they're reducing the footprint of their factories?
Well, I don't know, to make more.
Well, then it's not just then it won't just be the truck.
No.
It's like everything will be produced in Texas. Yeah. The Y, the 3.
Oh, yeah.
So that got me real excited, too. I'm like, oh, then everything's going to get produced in Texas.
He basically said that yesterday when he said, hey, you've got to – this is a classic finance dilemma. Right. If you can deliver your product in the same time as your accounts payable,
Yep.
your cash flow goes through the roof. So when he said that, I was like, oh, I wonder how many people are actually listening to that, because that's a really important point.
So two things that stood out to me yesterday was, one, the battery technology is absolutely amazing. It absolutely He absolutely changed the world yesterday.
Yeah.
He changed the world. Like, you can make, and only, what's the next generation look like? How much more efficient is it?
Yeah.
How much cheaper does it cost? Right now you're close to electric planes, right? You're getting close to electric planes. But the other thing he said was, and it was a slight dig at Lucid and Nikola and all these other companies, he said it's really easy to build a prototype.
Yes, I love that.
He said it's really easy and it's fun. And everyone builds the prototype and we drive around. It's like, but building the machine that builds the machine is really difficult.
Yes.
And he said that's why we, Tesla, are the only ones in the last 100 years in this country to start from nothing and now have mass production on automotives. 100 years since that happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, that right there, if you're a big Tesla fan, you worry about Nikola and Lucid and all these other companies, like, there's nothing to worry about. He knows.
Yeah.
He's like, that's a joke. They're not going to put that out in 2021 because they're going to have so many little setbacks.
Yeah. Even
the ID3, which is the Volkswagen, that picture of them having to manually update the hardware.
Yes.
And so there's just a bay with 50 Volkswagens and 50 laptops all updating at the same time.
Which is ridiculous.
So there's massive delays on that. And he's like, hey, here's Volkswagen, the number 3 or whatever car maker in the world, and they can't do it. Here we are flying through. And what he said was, usually when companies start getting bigger, they slow down. We're not. We're speeding up.
Yeah.
And I thought those two things, that what did they released on that battery, which is amazing, and the fact that he just let everyone know again that you know what he did yesterday? He said, hey, don't forget, I'm also a genius.
Yeah.
I think that was like, we're all talking about his net worth and all the stock and all this other stuff. And Nikola and all, he's like, hey, don't forget, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
I know how to do this, right?
Yeah.
And I felt just watching those 2 hours, and it was a long presentation, I felt super, super recharged, and no pun intended, comfortable, and that, hey, this guy is there.
Yeah.
Right? I renewed my belief in that he can get these things done.
Well, it seemed to me it was almost a sales pitch to say, you guys are not going to be able to catch up on battery technology.
Nope.
So GM, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, Porsche, you might as well just get on board and start buying this technology.
Yeah. So basically what they said was, we can increase range by 56%. So let's call it a half.
Yeah.
So now Tesla had one product out there that was sub 300 miles. And it was a performance model. We looked 280 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is now, he's basically told the world, hey, in 3 years, every Tesla vehicle is going to have minimum 450-mile range.
Yep.
And you'll be able to buy 500, 600, 700. The truck already was at 500.
Yes.
So now we're thinking the truck's going to match a Ford F-150 gallon per gallon. Like a gallon, you can get like 700 miles. The Tesla will get 700 miles.
Yeah.
And the way they're doing the battery pack, it will be lighter.
Yes.
Which is amazing. So what they said on the battery blew my mind. I just started doing the numbers. Like, that means a Model 3 is going to have a 510-mile range. A Model Y with a 500-mile range, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's what everyone needs in their life. And if they can make it $3,000 cheaper.
Yeah, if you start dipping into the high 40s, low 50K, that's not out of reach. Guys, go price a Honda CR-V loaded. It's like 40 grand.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you're talking another,
look at a RAV.
Yeah, look at a RAV4, right? Yeah, look at a RAV4 all loaded out. And that's the market he's after. And you're telling me 10 grand and I don't have to pay for gas ever or anything or any of the other maintenance? It starts making a lot of sense. And plus you get all the safety features and autonomous mode and all that other stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Teslas aren't exactly the prettiest car out there. That was the big complaint I got. It was like, well, it's not as pretty. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? The problem is if, here you have this beautiful GT3 that costs more than your Tesla, the 4-door family hauling sedan, and all you see of the Tesla is the tail lights.
So I'll just, as we go into break, I'll just remind everyone, it was battery day. It wasn't
true.
paint day, new product day.
No, but they said
it
they were
was
going to
just
release
battery
paint.
day. So I really want to figure out the paint. Hey, this is Robert Jason. We're Mr. Texas Real Estate, and this is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We'll be back. I'm sure next year they'll do the plaid update, and they'll show you all the paint colors that are now available.
Oh, yeah.
But he's got that. He has the problem. The problem that we'll talk about is the Osborne effect.
Order now. Let's see. There it is. Plaid.
Plaid. There's only one thing faster than ludicrous. Plaid.
So they also talked about that $25,000 Tesla, the low end.
They're going to start building that in China. And so they're
Is that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. How much? I have a MasterCard on file.
All right, so it's $1,000 to reserve one. I think I'm going to reserve one of these.
They made the claim of Laguna Seca, going around a
Yeah.
track and so forth. So I've heard of that track, but anyway, I watched some YouTubes of
Oh, it's awesome, isn't it?
cars going around the track. Shit.
That chicane at Laguna Seca, when you're coming up, you go up, and then there's this, I can't remember what turn is. You
What they
come
call
left,
the corkscrew.
and then you come back down it.
Come back down and do
He was
this.
hitting some of those turns at 90 miles an hour.
Well, that was the average speed of that
Wow.
car was 90.
It is tough when you're coming down that, and the car's coming down the hill, and you're trying to get traction. The cowbell.
More cowbell.
They're taking deposits for $1,000.
$1,000.
I think I'm going to put mine in today.
I think that's your car.
That's ridiculous.
I think Mr. Texas Real Estate needs 2 trucks, a Y, an S, and probably when that $25,000 one comes out, that will be perfect for our property managers and stuff to run around.
This is what it says. Estimate is 520 plus miles.
Plus, yeah.
Because once the batteries get developed, then I think they will get better. That's 500. It's going to give 520 miles to a charge and drop a Bugatti like it's 1,100 plus horsepower.
That's almost to Corpus and back.
Oh, 520?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Now, it'll burn through that battery a little bit faster at 200 miles an hour. But
Yeah, you think, yeah. Right, so you probably get about 380.
at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's I thought it had a wide body kit on it too. Is that right? It's hard to tell from the picture. I think it's a little bit wider than that.
Well, what we didn't understand with the wide body, I think, is the body for the batteries that they were using. So remember what they talked about yesterday is the batteries are now integrated. So every other electric vehicle out there on the marketplace, including the current Teslas, have batteries as cargo.
Yes.
Think of it that way. It's cargo. You're carrying it. Now the batteries are structure. So you've lightened the load of the car by 10, the body by the frame by 10%. And then the other thing that got real excited was they are now stamping the front and rear ends.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically their body is 4 pieces plus batteries.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tray, there's a cap, there's the batteries, and there's the front end and the rear end. And they're reducing the car by 370 parts.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That makes production faster. That makes it cheaper. It's just amazing. And they are stamping Model S body parts right now.
And you know what the fascinating thing is too, and they've talked about this, but they don't have the means of production yet. You know, when you get into that accident and you need to put a front clip on, you just order the front clip.
Yeah.
And you just slide it in there. So, or the rear, or whatever it is that you need. So it's interesting.
And when he talked about that about a year ago, and here's what he said. Every time there's a crash in a Tesla, we study it. Right? So every Tesla crash, we studied it. And the biggest complaint we got from owners, it costs so much to repair.
Yeah.
And they said, well, why is that? and it's because of all the pieces that we're using.
Yep.
And so that really kicked off his design that less is more.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said it's really hard to get rid of pieces. But they figured out the world's largest stamping machine is now in California, and it's producing Model S parts.
So let's kind of tie this all up in a bow. You have to have this level of integration and innovation in order to go to Mars. You have to have the team that can build the machine that builds the machine, because you're not going to be able to ship parts to Mars.
Right.
That's just not going to work.
Yep.
Now, maybe there's some raw materials that go back and interplanetary kind of back and forth because it's only a 7-month trip right now. But by and large, you need to be able to manufacture in that theater, if you will.
Right. Is there silicon on Mars?
Yeah, there
probably is, right?
There should be.
Probably abundant, right? So now you can make those batteries.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they also mentioned, and just there was so much packed into it that I think people were just waiting for some big things that didn't happen, so they saw it disappointed, was they talked about, hey, we're starting our battery recycling.
Mm.
They're going to be the #1 battery recycling plant in the world because it is cheaper to extract cobalt and nickel and lithium from a battery than it is to mine it.
Yep.
So they're like, just bring it all here,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll build a machine that just takes it out, and we reuse that.
Yeah.
And again, and the other thing, again, just happens so fast. He said he needs to build a standalone battery manufacturing plant, massive terafactory, and it looks like it'll be in Oklahoma.
Oh, interesting.
He said every car manufacturer is now going to have a battery plant, but we won't be able to produce enough. So we have to build a really big plant. And he said, we're gonna figure out where that location is, but we really liked what Oklahoma offered us for the factory. So that could be the second place.
Which makes sense. It's in the middle of the country.
And it's a bit industrial, right? There's guys who know how to work machinery there. So and it's dead, pretty much dead smack in the middle of the country, right? So, and then he mentioned it, but he didn't really. He hinted at a lot. He said it's so important to have a factory on every continent.
Yes.
And then he talked about. He didn't say it directly. He said, but we've got one down in the Northwest. We have one down in the Central South. And what you wanted him to say was, and we need one in the Northeast, which he's been hinting at. So a Pennsylvania or Ohio plant would make a lot of sense. And then all of a sudden, he can get to his goal. And when he said his goal, and it went like that, his goal is for Tesla to produce 20 million vehicles a year.
Yes.
And when you start running those numbers backwards,
he's
basically setting himself up for Tesla to be a $1 trillion annual sales company.
Yes.
Almost twice what Walmart is.
So what was funny about that is I'm already reading the analyst report, and they're already laughing at the 20 million number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get ready, guys.
Right. Toyota does 11 million. Volkswagen does 10 million. GM does 9 million. I mean,
so here's
do we believe he's going to take 2 of the top 5 out? Here's where I think
the analysts are wrong. They're assuming it's going to have a Tesla badge on it.
Yes.
I think that's what people are screwing up. They think there's going to be a bunch of these. Let's be honest. Tesla's not a pretty car. There's going to be a bunch of these little ugly Teslas running around. That's not the case.
Nope.
They're going to be manufactured by Tesla, but it's going to have a Porsche badge on it.
Sure.
It's going to have a Lambo badge on it.
Yep.
By the way, now I hate to make the equivalence. This is just this. The automotive industry is going through the same changes that the bicycle industry went through starting 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. You can go to any bike shop. Well, you can't now because it's the middle of coronavirus. But when bike shops actually had bikes, anything that's made of carbon fiber is made in Taiwan or China. And most of them are made in China by a company called Giant. And Giant Bikes makes Specialized, Cannondale, Paranello. Like any bike that's carbon fiber, I can almost guarantee you it comes out of one of 3 factories in China.
Yep.
So automotive manufacturing, it only makes sense at some point that it's going to go that way.
It's the only way GM or Ford will survive. It's retrofitting their existing factories.
Right. But it'll be a lot easier.
For
Nikola, right. A good way to put it is cheaper for a manufacturer to have someone else do the manufacturing.
Yes.
Well, let me put it to you this way. One of the richest companies in the world does not own a manufacturing plant and yet makes electronics. Apple.
Right.
With a few exceptions. Their Mac Pros are made up in Austin. Everything else is made by Foxconn in China. So there will be a company, and maybe it's Tesla, that just does the manufacturing.
And I believe that will happen probably in Asia first.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think because you have governments who can come through and cut through the negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt that'll see that. But even just matching Toyota, and they're on track to match Toyota, $10 million a year. That's $500 million a year company.
Yeah.
Not even talking about solar or autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Not even talking about that, or self-driving, or the taxi network, or any of that stuff. Just on the vehicles, it's $500 million company. It'd be the number 2 company in the world.
Mm.
And I think he can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone laughed at him 10 years ago, right, when he said he was going to make his car.
Nobody's laughing now.
Yeah. So.
No, they're teasing about what he names his kids and his crazy stuff on Twitter. But when you watch the company, you're like, oh, this isn't funny anymore, is it?
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm also a genius.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert and Jason here, Mr. Texas Real Estate, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We'll be back. And now that battery is 56% more efficient, right? Overall, it's called 60% efficient, 76% GPUs, more energy, more mile. He owns that battery.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to have to figure out a way not to use the patents that he uses. That's unbelievable.
But it's going to be cheaper to buy the Tesla battery for whatever piece of equipment.
Right. No, of course, yeah. And so I'm super excited to see Kathy Wood's analysis for ARC investment. I want to see they'll be out within a week.
Yeah, because you look at every industry that uses a battery that's that size.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Ready when you are.
Yep. It's the last one, right?
Yes, sir. There we go.
Hey, welcome back. Troy Nobbit in the morning. I think so what I looked at, because I know that I'm long on Tesla.
mm-hmm.
I felt very good yesterday.
Yeah.
I felt like, oh my God, this is gonna be great. If you think about it, there's 4 million square feet under roof in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And he told us yesterday he's reducing the size of his production because it's more efficient. Then that hit me. I was like, oh, he's going to produce everything there.
Yeah.
That will be that's maybe why he's calling it the Terra Factory, in that it will produce batteries, semis, pickups, 3s, Ys, S's, X, and the 2.
Yeah. Why not?
Yep.
Oh, the Model 2, by the way, is the small car they're going to build.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And I believe there'll
know.
be a Model R and a Model U. And it'll be RU Sexy 2.
Ah, you think so, huh?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Oh, that's witty. So witty. What comes after Plaid? I guess Plaid 2.
Light speed, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Tesla Light.
Tesla Light. That's
Tesla C. Right?
Yeah, that's right. C equals light. Yeah, speed of light.
Yeah.
For those of you who are awake in physics.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting battery. That's for sure. So, but he also hinted too that production on Cybertruck and everything else might be a little delayed, which is no shocker to me.
Because he needs those batteries, the high-end batteries for the semis and stuff like that. But
so you say where he's going to build the batteries? Is it in Oklahoma, or is he going?
They hinted that they did like what Tulsa and Oklahoma offered this go round, and they would probably be the number one consideration for the battery plant.
Mm-hmm. So he's got that deal with Panasonic, so I'm wondering if
all those guys are now producing that battery.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. They're going to start shifting over, so that when he made that, hey, we're going to be working with Panasonic for the foreseeable future, because he's making Panasonic redo their production line. Just like Nicola, who worked with GM, he went to Panasonic and said, "This is the battery we're producing, 4680, and you've got to produce it now."
Mm-hmm. So, and some people are probably like, Panasonic. So just so we're all on the same page here, probably the best rechargeable batteries on the planet are made by Panasonic. They're called In Loop. You can get them on Amazon. They're great. They've been making those for years. So they've been ahead of battery technology, at least on the manufacturing side, it seems like forever. So that's why Panasonic is just a great little brand for them. It's kind of like, a lot of folks don't know this. You know who makes most of the Apple screens? It's Samsung.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, Samsung makes a lot of those the LCD panels and OLED and all that other stuff for Apple, all the way up to their monitor, or, their desktops, right? So it just, some of these manufacturers are just better at one thing than they are at another.
So, okay, that's cars.
Yes.
The Powerwall is now 50% cheaper.
Yes. And smaller.
That's a big deal
That
too.
is a big deal.
That's a really big deal.
So the Powerwall is essentially a battery pack for your house.
Yes. And depending how many Powerwalls you get, you can hold 1 day, 2 days, 3 days worth of, and it would make a lot of sense down here to hold 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
Making sure that you have that Powerwall situated above the flood line, right?
Right.
So you're going to have to look at that. But again, a place like Surfside or Corpus Christi, you're already up 10 feet, 12 feet. Install that Powerwall, and you're going to hold 2 to 3 days.
Well, I mean, here's another thing. Not a lot of folks have talked about. Solar is one thing, and solar is still not cheap enough for us here in Texas.
Yeah, it's about we need to be $1 a watt, and you could do that if you put it together. We could do our building at about 96 cents a watt.
If we bought the kit,
we would buy the
stuff,
kit,
yeah.
and I would just fly the guy out, my buddy from California, to come out for a couple weeks and run his team of electricians and put it together.
So, but here's another thing a lot of folks don't realize is if the battery technology gets cheap enough, all you've got to do is be able to store the energy.
Yeah.
So if you bought a couple of those walls, and there's a bunch of electricity programs here in Texas that are like free electricity at night. So you could essentially charge your batteries at night.
That would be amazing. That would be so good.
You could build. It's pretty simple.
They must have a closet unless you have an electric vehicle.
I don't know, because it's pretty simple to do. You could have a computer hooked up to your house and your bed,
Yes.
and when you and once you exceed some peak number during the day, it just kicks over to battery power, and you charge it all back up at night. So your total cost per day, or let's say per month, in other words, you're using surge capacity for the batteries. That's what you're doing to reduce your electricity bill. So you could totally do something like that.
So prior to the world collapsing with COVID here, the city of Houston put out an RFP for electric charging stations.
Yeah.
They were moving forward with electrifying the city.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really unique issues here with Houston we've seen yesterday.
Yeah.
The flooding.
Yep.
So my buddy had already did an RFP for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And he said Houston's easy and it's bigger.
Yep.
And eventually any city parking deck, you just put them on the third level.
Mm-hmm.
You just put them up. You put them up, you put them up, you put them up. And so I think they're getting – I think that at some point the city of Houston will make that decision. But you will see a lot more electrification, power charging stations. Here's a better way to put it. The city of Houston is going into the charging station business with federal grants.
Yep.
Picking municipal and publicly owned properties and then swiping that credit card.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant revenue stream.
Absolutely.
And on top of what they can get as a municipality, the bonds they can get and the cheapest stuff, and then putting just solar everywhere becomes a lot. If you believe that we're moving towards an electric vehicle world, then why wouldn't you start investing now, putting the infrastructure in, be the leader, and start making money, becoming another revenue?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. I talked to Insider a while back. He says, yeah, Houston's coming. They're coming.
So let's go back to Powerwall for a minute.
Yeah.
One of the reasons this is so important is any of y'all that work in the tech, kind of that IT tech space,
Sure.
or in healthcare, you'll know that your building is full of emergency generators.
Yes.
And those generators require a ton of maintenance and a schedule that they have to be tested on, and they are ungodly expensive. To put one of those big giant diesel generators in, it's expensive. Yeah. Now you could go with the Powerwall being less and less expensive. You could literally build a pack of these things, replace your backup generators with, essentially electric backup.
So we used to put electric turbines, gas-powered electric turbines in hospitals as backups.
Yeah.
We did that. We put them up on the fourth floor somewhere, and they just had to be on the exterior wall and vented to the outside. I was not a part of it, but I also know that a lot of hospitals put in massive fuel cell generators.
Yes.
They put in fuel cell generators as their backup, and then they realized it's cheaper just to run this thing all day long than it is to pay 26 cents a watt for Southern California Edison.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of universities in California and hospitals in California that converted over to fuel cells because it made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really just the fuel was natural gas, right?
Right.
And the two waste products are heat and water.
Right.
And in a hospital where you need heat constantly
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of different reasons, mostly for washing things, right?
Yeah.
Sterilizing things, that heat's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of green technology out there that's very practical and still working, but if Tesla can bring it down to be cheaper, because at the point that the gas-powered turbine, that micro turbine, was the cheapest way to produce electricity outside of the grid.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really cheap, especially if you locked in a 10-year purchase on natural gas.
I think one thing that a lot of folks don't realize is how expensive it is to run a grid.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's so much easier to have point of use generation. I got a solar panel in my house and a battery backup, and I'm not hooked up to any grid.
Yeah.
It's so much cheaper to run your electricity that way because there's so much waste. Anyway, so
thanks for listening. That was our Battery Day review, and tomorrow night, Corpus Christi.
Now we talk about Corpus Christi.
So I read somewhere where they're doing the battery. They're going to build a plant in Fremont for the batteries.
Fremont, California. Yeah,
They already have.
So they already have, but he's going to expand that out.
He needs 300 times the production he has right now. Because he plans on selling 20 million cars a year.
Pretty crazy.
And then you saw Bugatti got purchased by an electric manufacturer.
Yeah, so Rimac is they've produced a couple of hypercars. They're pretty cool. But I think they're partially owned by Porsche.
Well, Porsche's owned by Volkswagen. And
Right.
Volkswagen said they'll own an 11 or 18% stake in that company. So
Yeah, that makes sense. They don't make any money on Bugatti. It's a loser for them.
Okay. Kill that. Ready for another one? Whenever you're ready.
Do we want a commercial lot in the Heights?
no.
Yeah.
Hold on. Just freaking out. Hey, you still at the house? Yeah, it's in that. It should be in that backup wallet I have in the top drawer. And over here. I mean, could use this downtime.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is actually what, because this is not what it shows on the website, but I'm hoping this is actually what it looks like. Probably not going to have the diffuser at the bottom. That's what that black thing is at the very back. That's the one they put on the track.
Yeah.
I like the wide body on it, but
It's nice.
it's not going to have that clear spoiler on the back. It's probably not going to have that. I don't know. It could have that diffuser on the bottom. It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
There's a clear spoiler on there? I didn't.
Yeah, there's a clear spoiler on the back. So
Yeah.
one thing that's nice about Teslas, because they weigh so much, they don't have to have active aero or any aero at all, really. because they weigh so much. So when they first started testing the C6 Corvette, I think it was a C6, they took it to the Nuremberg ring. And the ring it's awful track. Like, it's not safe. It's a terrible track. So they're bringing this Corvette around, and they got it airborne. Like, it was 3-4 feet off the ground. There's pictures of it on the internet. Just type in C5 Nuremberg ring when they were testing it. They literally got the thing airborne. And they landed, probably had to change their shorts, and then said, we've got to put some aero in this thing to keep it on the ground. So when I was driving
that fin comes with it.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. So if you're looking at like the Porsche GT3 and everyone wonders why does the RS version have that huge wing in the back, the huge wing in the front, like, because it needs it, and I think it starts at about 90 or 100 miles an hour. The rear wing alone adds 800 pounds of downforce. That's why you see those pictures of, and I'll post them every now and then on Facebook, like some guy's girlfriend or his wife laying on the spoiler in the back, and people are like, oh my gosh, she's going to break it. I'm like, unless she weighs 900 pounds, she's not going to break it, because it's designed for all that downforce. That's to keep the car on the ground, because otherwise it's going to come off the ground. So, and that's what these diffusers are for on the back. It creates the diffuser on the back, that's this piece right here, this black piece, creates a vacuum, and it keeps the car stuck to the ground. So if they're having to put this on Teslas, it means they are going ungodly fast, because they weigh, what's a Model S weigh, 5,000 pounds? Porsche GT3 RS is over 3,300, 3,400 pounds. I mean, so it's got some weight on it.
Nice.
Okay.
Ready?
All right. I guess we'll talk about Corpus Christi.
Yes. Big news.
Pre-recorded for broadcast at this time.
The following program is sponsored by Mr. Texas Real Estate.
Do you want to restart and do a clean one?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry.
The Texas